Hello.
Hi, hello everyone. Just waiting for a few minutes for everyone to join. But feel free to ask. Did you have a question?
No, I'm just saying hi.
Oh, hello, Tadi. Okay, we have a few people on the call now. Before we get started, are there any agenda people like to add today? I see, Samir, you're editing. Thanks for adding that to the agenda.
Yeah, sure. I was thinking how to word it. I think I got the wording right finally, but we'll use some help from Jimmy to explain it. Yeah. I have
Cool.
nothing. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, just we don't have a lot of we have a few open PRs, and we're planning to do a snapper release after the CRD PR merges, and I think everything else can be merged after we release. Is there any PR that you want to make sure to make it to the next release that we're snapping today or tomorrow? Matt, I know your PR was merged, correct?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, I don't think that we will have any other code going in that we would expect to be there.
Okay, cool. And Akash, everything good on your side?
Yep. Just the one PR that got merged last night. So
cool. Yeah, and I think Sajay's PR is just a doc update, so yeah, we'll be able to merge that anytime. And Sajay's not on the call today. Akash, do you know what is our next release version? Is it V 1.1 beta 1?
yeah, I'm not sure. Toddy, do you know? I think David had milestones set up. I'm not sure if we're gonna follow that or.
I am still trying to get into where we are with Ratify, so I can follow up with David, but unfortunately I cannot say what's the next milestone. We can go and look, as far as I know, on the project. So if you go in GitHub in the project itself.
Oh, sorry, I clicked a different button, is it? Project?
Go, yeah, Ratify planning. This is the issues, I think. Can you click on projects in the menus?
Yes.
Yep. And yeah, this one. So we have
I think V1. Yep.
And we can check what date is scheduled for that. I don't know whether it's a date that's put there, but I believe that's the next milestone. Can you scroll down eventually to see whether they are like other ones? Yeah, the beta one is the next one.
Yeah, do you know how to view the date? Like I've always heard like the November, early November. Is there a date assigned?
Can you click on this or no?
I can't click on the text, and this just expands the work items.
Yeah, if you go back to beta milestone on the top. Yeah, that doesn't have the date. Then we need to go back to the actual issues and their milestones defined there. And if date is set, most probably that's where we can find it.
I see.
Yeah, the ratify one. And issues, and there is the milestones button on the right next to new issue. No, next to new issue.
Oh, next to new issue. Yep.
And beta 1 is November 9th.
Got it. Which is today, which is why we're trying to snap today or tomorrow. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I think so far we're on track. I'm still just cleaning up my PR, taking the merging with the latest changes from main. So hopefully we'll have an update by end of today. Cool. I see we have a Pritesh. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, that's Pritesh. Yep.
Hi, Pritesh. Welcome to the Ratify community call. We're just getting started. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, hi, I am Pritesh. I'm working with Samir on notations. I basically work on notation from AWS side. So we are trying, I'm just trying to understand how verification work, how the signature verification will work with Ratify. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm Susan. I'm the project maintainer, and I work with Toddy, Akash, and David, and Sajay, and Derek.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you'll meet them.
Nice to meet you guys, yeah.
Nice to meet you, Pradesh.
Yep.
Same here.
I see Yomi is joining the call. Cool. So yeah, moving on to our agenda items today. Yeah. So Samir, I have a question on how to add verifier plugin binaries. And he said Jimmy would add more details. Jimmy and Samir, would you like to explain this a little more?
Yeah, sure. Samir, do you want me to go?
Yeah, I think Jimmy, you go first. I think we talked about it briefly. You'll represent it better than I can in terms of how to talk the containers lingo. Yeah.
So with respect to using binaries as plugins for Ratify, have you all thought about the approach to do that? I mean, I think currently like Notary is being integrated as Golang libraries for Notary. But if and when we had a binary that needed to be called, my question would be, where would we put that binary? I guess, would it be built into the Ratify image, or would we build it in a separate, say, plugins image and then use shared volumes? I'm trying to figure out what approach, if any, has been thought about.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about what I know. And Jimmy, let me know if that's what you had in mind, like what the question you have in mind is. So in the config, I'm just going to bring up our config map. So for a given verifier or a store, there is a plugin path property. I don't know if we can see it here.
Yep. So Susan, if you go into the code under the verifiers folder, there's the config directory, which has the config.go.
Okay.
That actually would enumerate the property, because I don't think we have any documentation specifying how you would specify the plugin binary.
Is it here? Config.json or
No,
do we?
so it would be under the verifier, so package verifier.
I see. Package verifier. So am I in the right directory?
No, so go one up and then package. Verifier config. Yeah, so So we have this field called the plugin binders directory. So that just specifies where when we create the verifiers on Ratify pod startup, which directories we should look for to find the different verifiers that are specified in the config map. So if you were to add a new one, you would, if you could, what we do currently with our out-of-box verifiers using the plugin, using the binaries, which are cosine, we have an SPDX verifier, we also have the SBOM verifier. So all of those are implemented as separate plugins. And we, in our Docker file for Ratify, we just build those separately, and then we place those binaries in the default directory, which Ratify looks for. You can override the default directory using this plugin bin directory field. Otherwise, if you're going to implement your own plugin, what could happen is you could add it to the plugins, the existing plugins directory that we have in this repository, and then you can add a step in the Docker file to build and move it to the correct folder.
So the idea here then would be, if we had a publicly available binary to download, we could put it into the Docker file, into the default directory, and
yep,
we would not have to, let's say, munge the config map at all.
Yeah, that would be the idea. So you would just add it to this Docker file, and then in the config map, you would add the new section for your specific verifiers config, like we have for Notary or Cosine or SBOM, etc.
Okay.
Hi, Jimmy, I'm just bringing up a config map. So if you had a, let's say another verifier, so you would have an element like this with the name of your verifier, the artifact type, and also the path to the plugin if it's different than the default. And I think the default would be app plugin verifier.
Okay, let me see. Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be something like
Are plugin invoked by command line interface?
Samir, can you repeat the question?
Okay, are plugin invoked by command line interface here? So how will Ratify invoke the plugin binaries?
Yeah, so the artifact type here. So when in the executor, we have logic to, we'll say, okay, what are the referral artifacts for this image? And then we'll pull them down and we ask every verifier that's registered, can you verify this artifact? And they match based on this artifact type that you defined in the verifier to the config map.
Okay, but how will that binary would be invoked? Let's say, for example, here we have a notary binary. How will you invoke that binary?
Got it. So in the, let me bring up the sample we have in the contributing doc. So right here, I had some sample launch files for developing with VS Code. So right here, this is an example of invoking the ratify command line. And this would say, I'm going to please verify the image here. And the executor would go fetch the artifacts, and then it'll run through the registered verifiers, which would, if Notary was one of the verifiers in the config map, it'll invoke ratify that way. So this is the CLI command for validating the image. Does that
So
answer your question?
Yep, got you. Yep.
So if we had like if we added a plugin to like the notation CLI, we could then create a verifier that uses that notation CLI with our plugin embedded.
Yes, I think so. You have a new plugin that'll invoke some notation command that's different to the notary today. Is that right, Jimmy?
Yes, that's something that is being considered, right? So,
Yep.
I
And you'll
mean,
build your new verifier, and you put your new verifier in the configuration file, and you say verify this image, and it'll check every verifier, like, can you verify this artifact?
okay.
There's a interface. The interface, I think, have can verify and verify, like at least these two methods to implement.
Okay.
And I believe I can try to find the plugin file. Like I feel can verify, it's a I don't think you have to implement it. There's like a default implementation in plugin.go. So let me see if I can find it. Verifier plugin. Yeah, so this Go file have some methods to create the new verifier and check if the artifact type matches.
So with respect to, so the process then is, we would have to, let's say we'll do a run add in the Docker file to get the binary that we want built into the Ratify image. Let's say we drop it in the default plugins directory right now. And then we would go in and configure a verifier based on artifact type to use that binary. That sounds, that's the way to go with this.
Yep.
And
I can
we have
go
to
ahead.
configure, we have to write another verifier and then configure the config map to point to that new verifier.
To enable the new verifier, yes.
Okay. All right. So the way I understand it is, I'm sorry, I'm being obtuse here.
No problem. This is what the call is for.
Okay. So step by step, I'm going to add a binary to the Ratify Docker or container image, and then I'm going to create a new verifier using these interfaces that you're calling out here with these functions, and then I'm going to register that verifier based on artifact type with the config map that other verifiers are used, so that when the artifact needs to be verified, it will reach out through our verifier that we wrote, calling that binary that was included in the Ratify image.
Yes,
That,
I think
that's
that is, this
very high
workflow
level.
sounds correct to me. I can also try to find the PR that Eric had for adding the license checker. Like if I can find that commit, that'll give you a good idea of all the steps involved adding a new verifier.
Okay.
Hi, Samir, you have your hands up.
Yeah, I'm just building on the questions that Jimmy's asking. One question I have is, so Ratify has already absorbed Notation Go as a base verifier, so it doesn't have to be explicitly configured. And notation will be invoked by Ratify directly for any signature artifact. Am I hearing you right that by using this process you outlined, we can override the default behavior and Ratify will instead call this new verifier and not call base Notation Go, which is included in it for signature artifacts?
So notation is enabled by default just from our chart. So looking at our config map again. So this is the template to install Ratify, and the application, like in the Helm install, the config map gets mounted to become the configuration file. So you can see in the configuration file, there's no flag to check if we should enable notary. Right, so in a sense, this is kind of built in, but the application code, it's still checking what are the plugins that you've configured, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think yeah, so I see that you're checking here if you're assuming notary is present, and this is the notary client, not the notary golib, right?
I believe so. Akash, do you know?
Yeah, so you can think of it kind of as the notary client, but it's just our wrapper, our abstraction of it as a separate verifier. The built-in portion is that the implementation is a built-in plugin, but if you don't specify the Notary v2 plugin like it's named here, if you just remove that portion, then it's not going to use the Notary v2, even though it's actually built into the code. If the verifier is not specified in the config, then it's just not used. So you would use your own custom one and replace it with the Notary v2. So Notary v2 AWS or something like that. So then that way the original built-in Notary v2 verifier is no longer used, and instead yours is used instead. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it answers my query. Leaving the floor open for Pritesh and Jimmy to see if they have any follow-up questions on your answer. But I think my query is answered.
No, I think I've got the high level of, I mean, what needs to be done. It's a matter of actually doing it. And, you know, at some point, Susan, if you do find that, it's no rush. I mean, I can look at closed PRs as well. So
Yeah, I know the directory structure a little better, so maybe we can find it quickly here. So it's in plugins. Okay, it's not here.
Actually, it's Susan, it's going to be Ratify plugins.
Okay,
Yeah.
not in package.
Yeah, a little bit confusing.
Verifier.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. So right here, this commit looks pretty good. Add license checker plugin and docs.
okay.
Yep, so we've got the license checker verifier in the plugins directory. There's some utility classes. Yeah, I think this is pretty much what you need. Yep,
Okay.
I will paste this in
Thank
the
you.
link. Chat window. Oh, Tadi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I think some of the folks already know me, but I am actually a principal program manager on Microsoft Containers teams or Azure Containers teams. So I work with Susan, I work with Akash, Sajay, David. Going forward, actually, I'll be maybe the main contact person from product management point of view for Microsoft for all the work that we are doing in Notary, Auras, and Ratify. And as I mentioned, so some folks have already seen me on the Notary meetings in the last week or two. We're kind of switching this from David to myself because I've been driving the secure supply chain for Azure for the last year, and I have kind of the full context. David needs to take some different role, which is related to our Kubernetes service. So that's about me.
Thank you, Tadi. Cool. I see there's Yomi and Vanny on the call. Is there anything that you like to cover today?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah.
Nothing in particular. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's everything on our agenda today. If there's nothing else, I will update the notes and upload the recording tomorrow sometime. And if you have any presentation, feel free to add it to the agenda for next week. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Susan.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks.